Okay, we've started. We're live-ish. So yeah, we were at the beach, what, 2 weeks ago?
3, 4, well, yeah, a month ago.
Seriously, a month ago.
Yeah, we were there on the last week of February.
Okay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is I want to point out to everyone, I want them to see all that you have done in the last month. Because you had never crocheted before we went to the beach.
Never.
Yeah. So all right, let's see your stuff. I want to see your stuff. You did the washcloth first, right?
Yes, the washcloth with the
little scrubby poof
with the
things in it.
baubles. Wait, that's the wrong side. And the scrubby yarn or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you remember which pattern that was? Who did that pattern?
No.
Okay. Well, if we
don't.
can find it, we'll put it in the description.
Okay.
So, and then you did the poof.
The giant poof.
Poof. There it is. A pillow, which is super awesome. Okay.
Very big. And I did a hat, but my daughter has taken the hat and I don't know where it is.
Okay. And
then I'm working on my blanket.
Oh yeah. With the linen, moss, granite, whatever stitch you want to call that. And then you did something else too.
Oh
yeah.
Slippers, which look like this.
Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. Seriously, Jen.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. So I know on your hat, you did some of the ribbing that we had talked about last time. And we got into that just a little bit. So here is the slip stitch ribbing. And when you did your hat, you went from ribbing to the hat, or you went from hat to the ribbing?
I went from hat to the ribbing.
Okay, which is harder to me. So if you were making a sleeve,
and I did single crochet ribbing.
Okay, so that would be, I know I showed this last time. So that's what I did with this one. I went from the single crochet ribbing, and then I started in on the sleeve, which you know how to do, kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I think so. I mean,
we had 10 slip stitch rows here, and so I just made sure that I had 10 single crochets across the top here. So whatever on your slip stitch and your single crochet ribbing, you just match the number of rows with the single crochets that you work across the top. And so you can, so this is how you increase. We'll kind of combine these. That last hole, we're going to say this row has 10. Okay. So we're going to go up to the next row. And the way you do that is in this very first hole, instead of 1 single crochet, you put 2. So now you've just made an increase. So that's, it really doesn't matter, like if you're doing single crochets, half double crochets, double crochets, whatever you want to increase, you just put 2 stitches in 1 hole. So you double the count. So when I get through with this row, if I increase, it's really tight. Good grief. Okay. So instead of 10, we'll have 12. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so obviously, if you increase every row on each end, it's going to do this dramatic
Right.
Y. Whereas if you increase and then the next row, you keep the same number, the next row, you do the same number, then you increase again, then you're going to start to have less of a
A
Y.
gradual. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you increase. Okay. Decreasing, we'll talk about in just a minute. Just want to talk some more about going across these ribbings. I don't know if you remember me saying the slip stitch, you do the same number of rows. The single crochet ribbing, same thing. You just do the same number of rows across the top to move on to something else. The half double crochet is the weird one. That's double. This is the half double crochet. So because it's like this is one, this is one, this is two, this ends up being just kind of a weird number of things. So you see those ridges. Let me get this. Ugh. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the half double crochet. You don't do 2 stitches for each of these rows. You kind of have to divide them up. So for like the first one, you would do 2, but then in between these ridges, you don't do 4, you do 3.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. Did your mind just get blown a little bit? Okay. So I just did my bridge, my chain one, and I'm going to work across here. Okay. So, yeah, working across the top of this stuff is so not easy. Okay. So we're going to say that's our first one. This is our second one for this row. And then in between these, you're going to do 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then if this was my very last row, I'd just do 2, but in between, let me show you. Let me show you this one. So basically this first row, I did 2 single crochets in the top. And then in between each one of these ribbings, I only did 3. Because if you just do 1 per row, then it starts making everything too tight. And then if you do 2 for each row, then it gets too wide.
I see.
Yeah. So half double crochet is the only weird one when you're going to start with ribbing and then work up. Okay. So now let's pretend like this is our hat, and you now want to put, where's my hat go? Actually, this one was worked the other way around, but like you did, right? You worked your hat and then you went to put the ribbing around the edge.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to pretend that's what this is. And all this is just 2 rows of double crochet. And there's, I think I did 15. Yeah. Okay, so to do the ribbing, did you do which ribbing did you do? Slip stitch, single, half double?
Single.
You did a single. Okay,
Mhm.
so let me take that out. Okay, well, let's say I want my ribbing. Let me get this hat back out. Let's say I want it to be this one. I don't know if those are pretty big. You can probably see it's only like three stitches high.
Yeah. I think, what did I do?
Did you do 5, 7?
I think it was 5.
Okay. So
Yeah, it was 5.
you would do 3, 4, 5, and then you do your bridge or that chain 1 at the end. And then you would work back. Ugh. I think I started this wrong. Okay. So you're working back down the chain that you just did. And I don't know about you. Did you use stitch markers?
I did not. I
Okay.
probably should have. It
Oh,
may
yeah,
have made it
yeah.
easier for me, but
Yeah, stitch markers with ribbing to me makes such
oh yes, yes, I did.
difference.
What am I saying? I did. I did
Okay.
use stitch markers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I never would have found that
Yeah. This is
end
very,
stitch.
yeah.
Yeah,
this
I did.
end one. Okay. So I'm on my 5th. Okay, there is my 5 stitches for my ribbing. The first time I did this, when I was working ribbing onto something I had already made, I forgot to advance a row. Okay, so let's look at it like this. Let's pretend like this is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for this stitch right here, we just went up and now we're coming back down, and that row is actually going to end in the next one, right?
Right.
And so you join it with that one. So now your ribbing is attached. But then what I did was went straight back up again. So my ribbing started doing like this. I had quite, actually, I think it was on this sweater. You could see the screw up if you like really.
I've been taking pictures of all my weird
Yeah.
screw ups.
Yeah.
Just to keep, you should see some of them. They're funny.
Yeah.
They're really funny.
So
I mean, I can laugh at them now.
Yes.
I
Yeah. Well,
wasn't laughing then.
If I showed you, well, okay. So that I'm gonna show you so we can laugh together. So do you see that? Look at that. Nice.
Oh,
That
yes.
Nice. Yes.
Yes,
Straight,
I see that.
straight edge. This sweater I only wear when I know I'm going to not be taking off my coat. I didn't know this is what they call a raglan or a top down. So I started with the turtleneck, the ribbing, and then I started the sweater here, and I just made a big circle, and then at the 4 corners you increase, so it starts making the square. Well, I didn't realize that when you do that, you have to flip your work every time you do it. Otherwise, you get this seam that starts going crooked.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, so I figured that out.
See, that's
here.
exactly something that I would do.
Yeah. And so, do you know how many times I ripped this section out? Literally 4 times. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing that was making this stupid thing go sideways. Oh my word. So once I finally figured it out for the 4th time, because I got on Facebook and a bunch of chat rooms and was like, help, I don't know what I'm doing. And they finally were like, oh yes, you have to turn your work. And I was like, oh my word. So yeah, see, it got straighter after that. So yeah, this is my lesson learned, but I had invested too much time and too much energy to rip it out a fifth time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, what helps with ribbing to me, like when you're adding ribbing onto something that you've already done, just think about it in terms of, okay, this row belonged to this one. This row now belongs to this one, and I got to advance it. Now I'm going to be going up this row, which means I got to get over to that stitch to start it. So you slip stitch. So it looks like that. And then you turn it and then you work up your ribbing.
Right. Skipping the slip stitch.
Skipping the slip stitch.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So again, adding like the single crochet ribbing to stuff is not complicated because it's just a one-on-one situation. And
that's why I picked it.
Yes, yeah. And the double crochet is you just do two. Hang on just a second. No. Explain what I mean by two. So, oh, I think I went too far. I think I just added one. I did. I increased. So with the double crochet, you would come down this row and you would slip stitch into this one. Right. And then you would actually slip stitch into the next two because your double crochet is wider.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, the half double crochet, which is what I did on that same blue sweater. And I'm trying to remember if I just did like a one-on-one or if I did advance two. I think I did advance two. I think I started out advancing one and then through the middle ones, I did advance two. So yeah, that gets confusing. And let me show you another way. Okay, so that's how you do the ribbing to work across, or at least a taste of it. So decreasing, which doesn't really have anything to do with ribbing. So decreasing is, the opposite of increasing. And so instead of putting two stitches in one hole, now you're going to take up two holes with one stitch. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're making two stitches into one.
Yeah. So this would normally be like where I do the double crochet, right? But you don't. Well, we're going to say this is our first hole, and then you go into the second hole and then you do a double crochet. So now I just took up those two holes with one stitch. So you can do the same thing. People do their decreasing like a lot of different ways. Like I have seen do this so that there are 4. Yeah, and you kind of do like a weird thing like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think one of them becomes a little less bulky. And honestly, another way you can decrease, you just slip stitch. Like you just put a placeholder there, and then you can continue. Let me show you too what I mean. It's a little bit easier to see what I'm talking about. Let's say that, okay, I have 15 and this next row, I wanted to do 13. I'm going to decrease by 2. You could just literally slip stitch into the first two and then start your double crochet. So you basically have decreased. So when you go to the next row, you just ignore those two. You just start where the first double crochet was.
Okay.
I mean, this gets real jagged, you know, like a stair,
Yeah.
but if you're going to finish that edge with, hang on a minute. You know, if you finish the edge, like with a row of single crochet like this, it smooths it out. You don't know the you don't see the jagged.
Right.
Oh, ooh, ooh. Moved my table. Good. Okay. Another way to increase also, I'm looking for a different color thread yarn so that you can see what I'm doing. Well, shoot. Okay. Well, I'm trying to, I swear I thought I was prepared this time. Ugh. Come on. Okay. Oh, my scissors are already getting dull. So you can do this really cool thing. Can you teach me how to do a slip knot? Oh. Okay, good grief. You can chain say I'm going to chain 5, okay? And you can literally join your chain to the one end of your row. I did that on this sweater over here, and I'm trying to remember. How did I do that? Okay. All right. Let me get this sweater out. Is there anything else that you're like curious about or questions about, don't quite understand?
With the increasing and decreasing,
Yeah,
or
any
just
other,
anything?
yeah.
Oh
Just,
boy. Well,
know,
there's a lot of things. I'm sitting here looking at my current project and figuring out something I need to fix.
uh-huh. Is
Which
it bugging you?
is, oh my, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I know how it happened, but I just don't, I'm trying to figure out how I can not rip it out. No, I'm losing a stitch at the end. So I've been gradually decreasing.
And not meaning to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I don't know why my brain has just totally farted with the whole, I just did that with that sweater, and the pressure of having to figure it out right this minute is
Right.
getting to me. Um, I think what I did on that other one, is I did this. So instead of bridging up, yeah, this is what I did.
You're out of the, you're off to the edge, so I couldn't see what you were doing.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I bumped stuff. So basically, instead of doing the 2 chains, and then turning and then working across this way, you just extend your chains like this. And then let's say these are now my bridge, right? So now I'm working a double crochet into each one of these. I'm just going through one side right now because it's just faster, but normally I would be going through both tops of the V. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what are you doing?
Okay. So here's where I was working, right? I was going back and
Yeah.
forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, so
But
what is that little?
yeah, well, now I want it to increase. Now I want it to be all of a sudden 10 rows longer than
Oh,
the previous row. So basically you just chain out however far you want.
oh.
Yeah.
Well, couldn't I do that to fix where I've lost rows?
Yes, you can. You can. It'll do like this. Now you'll notice it because you are you.
Yes.
Yes. hmm But probably nobody else will.
Hmm.
I have done that a couple of times on some turtlenecks that I was slip stitch ribbing and I didn't put a stitch marker at the end and I accidentally dropped a few. And so my
Oh,
turtleneck just kind of goes like this and then it dips a little bit and then it comes back up again. But it's a turtleneck, so you fold it down and you can't really
yeah.
see the edge anyway.
Yeah.
So I opted to take the lazy way out and not rip it out. So yes, you could do that on your blanket where you dropped a stitch or two. If you've dropped like 5 stitches, then you're going to like over the course of like 5 rows, if each row you dropped a stitch, so it's like a total of 5, you might have a bigger um, indentation
Right.
where if you only drop 1 or 2,
Okay.
yeah, you'll have to decide what you want to do. And so you just kind of keep working across this row, and now all of a sudden you have increased like stitches.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. And then you just off this end, this is what I was trying to do with this and wasn't right. So you keep working across here, and then when you get to this end, if you wanted it to look like this one, you just do another 10 chains and then work across it like that. And so now instead of
Gotcha.
this big,
Huh,
it's now
okay.
this big. Yeah.
Now that technique I have never seen,
Okay. Yeah.
but then there's a
It's
lot I've never seen. So,
well, one way that it works really good for like sweaters is if you're working the sweater this way instead of this way. So normally, like if you're going to make a rectangle for a sweater front, you know, you would start at the bottom and you'd work your way and you just make a rectangle, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can do it this way. You can start at the sleeve. This would, you know, pretend this was, you know, 10 rows out. Here's your sleeve.
Okay.
And now you're going to do the base, the body of it. Like, you know, say you wanted to do like 20 inches for the body of it, right?
So you have to measure down.
Yeah. And then you just go out that side. And then when you're done, you just turn it like this and you now have your sleeves and the body of your sweater. It's all one piece.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I designed that towel.
Yes.
You know, hang over the. So
yes, I want to see that.
Okay. Well, this is it, but so you see that hole in the middle?
Yes.
Well, you can do picture this like sweater size. This is now your head hole.
Right. How did you do the hole?
I will show you. Okay, so I don't know where exactly the middle of this sleeve is. And I have a, yeah. Are you filming? Yeah. So, okay, I'm at the middle. Well, I don't know if I'm at the middle exactly. But if this was your sweater, you know, you'd obviously want it to be where you're skipping stuff. You were going to want it to be in the middle. You'd have to count. And then you just chain. I'm going to chain 5.
Oh, and then
you skip. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you're on
I
your
see. And then, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. So then the next time around, yeah, you've made a, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then you just keep working across. And then, okay, here's a little cheat. Okay. I just cheated right there too. Did you see that?
No, what?
Okay. So normally at the end of the row, right, it's that funky stitch that you can hardly ever get your stupid.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you can just do this. You can just go through the hole.
Okay.
It just does the same thing. So, and the same thing with the double crochets across. Got too fast.
So what is the size on that towel that you made? I want to make one of those.
I will.
Now that's your own pattern, right?
It is. And I'm just like, I'm going to post it on Etsy and Ravelry tomorrow.
Okay,
tonight,
good.
maybe, if I can get it for sale. But because you're my really good friend, I'll just give it to you.
Well, what? Yes, that'd be great.
So can you see the other camera? Like not this one, but the big one?
Yes.
So it's basically,
it's pretty big.
It's like 3 feet. I would show you what it looks like on my stove, but my stove is a mess right now.
Okay.
So I can't.
Put it down there so I can see it. Put it down in the you know, under your camera.
Oh, here.
Yeah, so I can see. Yeah. Is that all? What is that?
So it's my own concoction. It's 2 rows of double crochet. Actually, can you here, let me push that out of the way. Double crochet, 2 double crochets, half double crochet, single, single.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. Actually, I mean, this pattern, my niece is making a website for me. It's going to be free on that website, but if somebody wanted to pay for the PDF, it'll be for sale on Ravelry and Etsy. But this is not a complicated thing. So basically, what you do is you just take, like if this was the rod, it's a very fat rod. But that's how it hangs.
Cool.
Yeah. And then you don't have to have a button, which
Yeah, and
and
it's not going anywhere
no, and
unless you want it to.
right. I mean, you could use this in the bathroom for like an actual hand towel. I wanted it for the kitchen. The short ones irritate me. I don't ever have enough to actually get my hand,
Yeah.
dry with. And this gets heavy. And so it's also seems like it's longer because it pulls. It's
right.
Heavy. Yeah, Jean's grandma, hers is hanging right now in my stove, and it's the button one. And over time, the buttonholes just don't ever stay tight enough, and they
get stretched out.
Yeah, droops. So yeah, those are just some kind of little cheats. Oh, this last one is what I was going to show you. Okay. So normally, you're doing your double crochets across here. And so you just kind of pretend like this chain is just the top, of the last row of double crochets.
Right.
And so you would basically work into the top of the bees. But you can see it's not easy.
Well, but then I imagine after that row, I mean, then it's
oh yeah, no, and then it's just normal.
Not hard anymore.
But picture a 11-inch opening that you've got to work all these across.
Yeah.
Right? How much of a pain in the rear that would be, having to go through each one of these tops.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so you can do this. Oh, you just
go under.
Hole. Yeah, you just go through the hole. The biggest issue with this is that you got to remember how many chains you have. Because you
right, you got to, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
If there's only 5 chains, so there should be only 5 double crochets that you're working into this hole.
Yeah. Now, I would probably do an extra or leave one out, knowing me. This is what I've been doing lately.
So there you go. I mean, it does kind of irritate me to do it this way, because I swear it never quite lines up right. So sometimes the perfectionist in me would rather just go through the top of the chain because it visually spaces out better.
Right.
But like this yarn is pretty stretchy, but that cotton yarn that I was making the towels out of isn't stretchy at all. And so it was near impossible to get my hook through the top.
So you just went through the hole.
I just went through the hole. Yep. Because it was making me crazy. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, good tips. I need all the tips I can get.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of anything else lately that I've been working on that would be helpful for you to figure out. I'm fixing to Zoom with my mom.
Oh,
Yes. She wants to make a robe. She likes the pull over your head robes.
okay.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like a big project.
Well, it's going to, like, size wise be big because it's going to be like Joseph's coat of many colors. Like it's like, a full length tunic,
Right.
basically.
Yeah,
But I'm going to help her design. Like we've already talked about like the process of how to make it. So we're going to Zoom her and I the process of making this. So it'll be interesting.
that'll be fun.
Yes, it'll be fun. So, okay, well, I'm going to stop our recording and then we can chat.
Okay.
Okay. Ugh.